Hey friends and fellow Lyme warriors, what is going on? So thank you for joining me today. Thank you for coming in and listening. Today I want to share with you my story and my journey going through Lyme disease. Now, what a journey. And I was sitting here kind of trying to reflect a little bit, and there's some things I had really forgotten. And it's been quite a few years, and I was just finishing my taxes actually, and I found an old folder, and there was a piece of paper in there, pieces of papers that I had written out all my symptoms and kind of my journey. And this is the piece of paper I used to take with me into a new doctor's office, because I used to see multiple different doctors. And I was like, oh my gosh, I really need to share my story. I need to get this on video. And, I myself, being a certified personal trainer and nutritionalist, I see this all the time, as well with my clients. A lot of my clients are also chronically ill. And it's time. It's just time that I put my story out there so that you guys can hopefully be really empowered and inspired to really advocate for yourself and learn how you can actually thrive with Lyme. Now, I want to let you know that I'm probably most days about 85 to 90% in remission. I wouldn't say I'm 100% in remission yet, as I still have the odd day where I do flare up. But fortunately, they are no longer flares that last weeks and weeks or months. So I really want to share that story with you guys today. So my story goes back to 2014. And during 2014, I was a personal trainer still. And I was probably spending about 3 hours a day in the gym on my own personal training. And I had decided I wanted to start competing with bodybuilding. So my training was intense. It was extremely hard on my body, but it was so much fun. I loved every minute of it, and I was dedicated and determined to hit that stage and compete, and I did. And I think that the stress of that is what really, for me, for lack of better words, woke up my Lyme. So I did not have a tick bite that I remember. I do not remember ever having any type of rash or any type of bug bite that may have infected me with Lyme. I do not recall it at all. So I was competing, I was on stage, I was healthy, I was, what I thought was healthy. And right around the time of my last competition, I started getting hip pain, and we had some imaging done and nothing was really showing up. And as the few months went on after my competition, I was like, why is this hip pain still here? This should be healing. And my health also started taking a drastic turn. So I started getting really, really tired. And what I later learned was definitely chronic fatigue, with adrenal fatigue as well. And I was starting to have days where I couldn't get out of bed, and I was calling in sick to work. I was canceling clients. I had brain fog. I had tinnitus. I had the eye floaters. I had the migraines. I had the joint and muscle aches and pains, the feeling like I was 80 years old. And it was getting really bad very quickly. So I was going into my doctor and being like, help me, what is going on? And this had been my doctor for 15 years. So he knows me really well, and he knows I just don't come in and, for nothing. And he just kept looking at me like, you're young and you're healthy. Go away, basically. So probably about every 2 months, every 3 months over the next 4 years, I was going into him like, hey, help me. There's something going on. I'm still tired. I still have all these symptoms. There's moments where I can't even string a sentence together or remember my house number. I can't lift weights anymore. There's something going on. And he would entertain me and send me for this test or that test, which of course would all come back totally normal. He'd pat me on the back and reassure me again that I was completely healthy, young, and totally fine, and to keep just doing whatever it was that I was doing. And I was getting really frustrated with this. And the only thing that he would do was prescribe me with pain medication to help with the hip pain and the body aches and pains that I was having. And almost every prescription he'd give me, I was reacting to. So every few weeks I was back in trying a different type of pain medication. And we went through this for 4 years, just cycling through, trying to stay on top of my pain management. And I didn't know any better. I didn't know that, I should be fighting for more answers. I did keep pushing a little bit, but you trust your doctor. He's been with my doctor for so many years. I didn't even think to get a second opinion or to go to another doctor until the last prescription he put me on was tramadol. And I was on it for a few weeks. And from the day I started until about 6 weeks after I started it, I ended up in the ER, and I was having erratic heart rhythms. I thought I was having a heart attack. And the ER thought I was just having an anxiety attack until they hooked me up to an ECG, and my heart was all over the place. So they're like, okay, they started asking me all these questions, and they're like, they chopped it up to me reacting to the medication. So yet again, here I'm back to square one, back into the doctor's office saying, hey, we are on to prescription whatever, give me a new one, this one isn't working anymore. So where I finally drew the line was where he prescribed me an opiate patch. And I was just like, is this the next step? Is this where I'm at? Is I'm going to wear a daily opiate patch on my arm to just help with the pain and not know where it's coming from? It didn't resonate with me. I felt sick to my stomach, and I refused the prescription and walked out of his office. So I then, for the first time, was like, hey, I'm going to seek another opinion and see if I can get some more answers. So I had sought out a naturopathic doctor. Now, I had never seen a naturopathic doctor before, and I've never really had to. So I went, I explored it, and when I saw this naturopathic doctor for the first time, I remember this like it was yesterday, and bless her heart, she gave me space for over 2.5 hours to just, really fill her in on my whole history. And I felt heard. She literally just I felt like she was just holding me, and the space that she provided just made me feel like, oh my God, finally somebody's listening to me. And she right off the bat was like, I think you have Lyme disease. And at the time I was like, what? What the heck is Lyme disease? I was completely unfamiliar with it. I didn't know anybody who had it, and I was very uneducated around Lyme disease. So she, of course, had suggested that I get tested, and through naturopathic doctors, that's expensive. It meant that I had to spend $2,000 and send my blood to Germany, and I wasn't prepared for that. I just wasn't mentally prepared. So I was like, no, we're not testing for Lyme disease. I'm not convinced. Let's just start a homeopathic treatment and go from there. So we did that for about 6 months, and I maybe saw 5% increase in energy or felt better. So nothing significant, and finally was just like, okay, enough's enough. Let's just spend the money and get tested. That way we can really zoom in and treat whatever disease this is, as well as all the co-infections. So we did it, we sent it away, did it through Armin Labs, tested positive for Lyme disease and 5 or 6 other co-infections as well. Now we had answers, and this is where my denial completely set in. So at this point, it had been 4.5 years of fighting for an answer, and now I have one, and I didn't know what to do with it. I just went into shell shock, and I sat for about 3 months and told my immediate family, and that was it. I just was not believing it. I wasn't having it. And then finally I was just like, okay, Like something just triggered, around that 3-month mark, like enough's enough. You finally have these answers. Now it's time to deal with it. And I was now ready to receive it. So went back into the naturopath and started treatment. And what really, set this whole next year was, okay, I need to edit that part. And now starting this journey, it was going into, it kind of meant that this whole next year was going to be so incredibly rough. And this year that I started this homeopathic treatment was so intense and brutal. But I'm super happy I did it. The first 3 months was chelation therapy and lots of IV treatments, and followed by lots of colonics and detoxing. And we did a lot of, I can't even remember all the different stuff I treated with. The naturopath, or the LLND that I ended up working with, she was trained in the United States by Dr. Klinghardt. So she followed a lot of his protocols. So I followed that for an entire year. And then I ended up moving provinces, which means I had to find an entire new support system, which was overwhelming, frustrating, and very time consuming. So I decided that I wouldn't replace that support system. And that actually felt at that point of time too, that I was ready to now step outside of treatment and really control my my next step, my next part of the journey on my own. And that's what I decided to do. So for the last 3 years, I've now been solely focusing on my exercise, nutrition, self-care, self-compassion, and some at-home detoxing. Those are the 4 pillars that I now really focus on. And that's, I think, what has really got me to the next step of remission, is paying attention to those 4 pillars. Now, this comes after, 4 years of waiting for a diagnosis and, fighting and thinking you're going crazy and advocating for yourself, to getting a diagnosis, denying it, not knowing what to do with it, then accepting, giving it space, getting treatment for a year, and then now going out on my own. So there is kind of some stepping stones to go through this. So I'm not necessarily suggesting that you head out on your own from the very beginning. The LLNDs and LLMDs they definitely have their time and place. So now solely focusing on that. When I started to now get, after that year of treatment, I wanted to get back into exercise. Now keep in mind, this entire time I'm still working, I'm still a personal trainer, I'm still seeing clients, and that whole year of treatment didn't tell any of my clients. None of my clients knew that I was diagnosed with Lyme disease and had any idea what I was going through. And I saw it as a sign of weakness. I'm like, all my clients are going to leave me. They're going to think I can no longer do this. They're not going to trust me anymore. Like, if I'm not healthy, how am I going to get them to be healthy? And this mental brain game really started to mess with me. And thinking back on it now, I can't believe that I didn't tell my clients for a whole year. Like, that's such a long time. And finally, I just no. I think what happened was that I kind of accidentally slipped and told one client, and they were just like, oh my God, I know so-and-so that has Lyme. And I was like, what? There's other people out there? This is a real thing. And it just kind of opened my eyes to, I'm like, oh, and wait, she's not leaving me as a client either. And so I really started being okay with showing that vulnerability side and recognizing that it's not a weakness, that it's actually a show of strength, being able to share this. So then my career took a very big shift. I changed from coaching Olympian athletes and weekend warriors to slowly, organically shifting towards those who also had a chronic illness. Now, I didn't advertise this. This happened very organically. And I think the universe puts in front of you what you need. And I needed that. I needed other warriors around me, and they needed me. So this now takes the next step of my journey of how do I get back into exercise with a chronic illness? Now I know, being a personal trainer for over a decade, I know how important movement is. And I know how important it is, especially when you are fighting a chronic illness. And I immediately just started trying to go back to the same way I used to work out. And very quickly realized this is not going to happen. You cannot do that. You cannot expect your body to do the exact same things that it used to do, because your body is no longer the same, right? So the quicker I realized that, then I was able to really, adapt to my new fitness routine, and was able to exercise without flare-ups and without energy crashes and things like that. But I had to take care of my adrenals first and really heal those before I could get back into my exercise routine. So I know so many of you are, trying so hard to get back into exercise and are really struggling. So I hear you, I see you, I went through that as well. And I know what I'm doing. So I know that's so frustrating. So I've actually started another Facebook group, which is Lyme disease, exercise, and nutrition support, where we talk a lot about how to get back into exercise while dealing with Lyme or other chronic illnesses, and how to properly fuel our body as well. So exercise, huge part of helping me get into remission for sure. And I know some of you are just shaking your head like, how do you exercise when you feel like crap and you're in pain and you're so tired? And I know, I was there too. And there's fine lines of knowing when to work out and when not to work out, how to approach it, that kind of thing. That's a whole nother video. But I found my way through it, and then also realized the importance of nutrition, which I know most of you have as well. And nutrition is the second pillar that I pay attention to the most that helps me get into remission, because for me, if I consume, gluten, refined sugars, alcohols, certain oils, MSGs, GMO products, stuff like that, I will totally flare almost immediately. So I know my body cannot have those foods even still. Maybe one day I'll be able to introduce them back, and I do try here and there, but I'm still just not at that point yet where I can reintroduce those foods, and I'm okay with that. I feel like the diet part of this isn't a diet. It's a lifestyle change, and it's more about sustainability and longevity for me. So the way I eat now is the way I'll likely eat for the rest of my life, and I'm okay with that. And that is a learning curve that took me a long time to get there. And the biggest thing that helped me the most to stay on track with my nutrition is to remind yourself, whatever you have in front of you, whatever you're about to put into your mouth, take a minute and look at it. And is this, feeding disease, or is it going to heal you? It's a yes or no question. It's that simple. There's no in between. So having that mind frame going into my nutrition really helps me stay on track, and helps me really support my body with exactly what it needs. And then the self-care and self-compassion. So that's my pillar number 3 for my remission. And that is about allowing yourself to completely mourn the old version of you. And yes, it's a grieving process. And yes, you have to go through it. The quicker you can go through this grieving process and mourn the old version of you, then the quicker you can get on to the next journey and continue healing. But so many of us, and myself included, kept trying to get back to this old version of who I used to be before I got sick. And I chased that for a long time, and for years. And now I'm in a space where I'm like, no, it's okay. I'm okay to not get back to exactly where I was. So now I've shifted to new goals and new opportunities and a new path, which I feel is even better than the version I was before. So I'm really learning to thrive with Lyme versus just trying to fight back to where I used to be. And that self-compassion part as well is also learning how to fully surrender while you are flaring, and fully surrender and forgive yourself for when you have to cancel things or when you can't do certain things. That's okay, and to just be so gentle and so kind to yourself. If you wouldn't say it out loud to your best friend, don't say it to yourself. And I know that's easier said than done, but it's your brain hears, or how is that saying? Your body hears everything your brain thinks, right? The quote is something along those lines. And it is very, very true, right? So if you're constantly in your head thinking, I hate my body, I hate that I'm sick, why can't I heal? Your body's hearing that and feeling that. So you have to just really try to shift that mind frame. At least for me, that was a huge thing for my next step into getting into remission, was just, yeah, I'm okay with flaring today. I'm gonna have a Netflix day and have a horizontal day and chill in my bed and be okay with that, and let those emotions and let those flares flow through me. And then I find being able to do that, I can recover very quickly from my flares now, versus going into a panic and trying to fight it. So that has really helped me. And the gentle detoxing that I do, that's the fourth pillar that's really helped me for my remission. And that's, I don't do anything crazy. So I do things like dry brushing and sweating every day through my exercise, staying really well hydrated, doing some Epsom salt baths, doing things like coffee enemas, just gentle things I can do in the comfort of my own home that cost next to nothing, that I do on a daily basis to help my body to continue to detox. Now, it's not always detoxing from Lyme, but it's also keeping my body at optimal health and detoxing from the everyday toxins that we're exposed to on a daily basis. So usually when you have a chronic illness, your liver is clogged and you can't process and filter a lot of those toxins. So keeping those toxin pathways open is very important to get into remission and to prevent future flare-ups. So those are my 4 pillars that I now am actively doing on a daily basis to keep me here in remission. So I wanted to share that with you guys today. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for listening. And if I could give you any advice right now, is to just keep fighting, keep advocating for yourself. Go see a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th doctor. Get all those opinions. I can't tell you how many doctors I've seen. I know today I've just shared with you I saw my regular GP and then a naturopath. Believe me, I'd be here all day if I shared with you all the different doctors that I've seen. I've seen multiple specialists who all have been no help, zero. So advocate for yourself, but go and get those opinions. Seek the help that you get or that you need, and demand it. If it doesn't feel right, if it doesn't resonate with you, get another opinion. Keep fighting. And yes, nutrition matters. I can't tell you how many clients come to me now and be like, but can't I just have a little bit of gluten? No, especially in the beginning when you know that you react to it. No, you cannot have just a little bit, especially when you're trying to heal. You really have to make your health a number one priority, and then you can get into the remission. So I really hope that this, you find that this is a little bit empowering and inspiring. And I am sending you guys all so much love and so much strength. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it helps you. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I've now started I have a Facebook group. It's Lyme disease, exercise, and nutrition support, because I never want anybody to go through all the exercise struggles that I went through. I mean, I've been a personal trainer for over a decade. If I had troubles getting back into exercise, oh my gosh, what are my fellow Lyme warriors going through? So that's why I've now completely shifted my personal training career to now solely focus on those that also have a chronic illness, because it's so overwhelming. And there are very, very, very few coaches out there that focus on those with a chronic illness. So that's why I've now shifted towards that. So come find my group. It's completely free. And I would love to see you guys in there. So again, thank you for watching. Sending you all so much strength, so much love, and stick with it, you guys. You can get through this.